The Football Trash Talk for Real Fans podcast is an unscripted and free-flowing conversation that may touch on mature subjects. While the opinions are real, the research probably isn't, and we can't help that Atticus will probably talk about the Knicks.
And here we go.
He trucked dudes. It wasn't just in a preseason game. He did it pretty consistently. He left dudes saying, "What happened?"
You better put some respect on his name when we're talking about the champion, the Davion Clown.
And I'm just going on eye test here, right? Like, I like the look of this coaching staff, you know?
And we're back after
All right, enough of this.
hiatus.
Let's see what kind of shit we get into
Couple
today.
weeks off. So we're here for episode 25
Boy,
of the
it's all
Football
yours.
Trash Talk with Real Fans, i.e. the Fuck Your Team podcast.
I.e. the Fuck Your Team podcast. How was vacation there, big guy? How was it?
I was great, man. I can't complain. You know, the weather in North Carolina was beautiful every day. I think it rained once, but it rained at night. And then I think it rained one other time, but it was short and sweet. We were on the beach every day.
Is it humid up in North Carolina this time of year? Yeah.
Yeah. But my mom's on the island, so it gets the southeast winds. And
Okay.
It was 90, so you're sweating. But when you're on the beach, you know, it's windy. So
we're on the last Sunday without football until February. So we've made it somehow, you know. And for the first time, I learned. So there's roughly I never knew exactly how long it is, but it's 25 weeks between the end of the Super Bowl and this point right here, because you know we've done 25 episodes, but we also started prior to the Super Bowl. But then there was about 3 weeks we didn't do an episode. So all in all, about 25, 26 weeks between the Super Bowl and the start of the new football season. Well, the start of preseason anyway.
like half a year. It's a long time to go without football.
Feels like that.
Yeah.
No, I guess you're right. Yeah, it is about half.
Oof. Right?
It is too long.
At least there's like some news in there from time to time. You know, like Dallas Cowboys getting arrested, you know, stuff like that. So
Is that really even news anymore, though? Does that count?
well,
as news?
entertainment, news entertainment.
It's like return to normalcy is what that is.
Yeah.
So anyway, there's a lot to talk about. Lots happened in the last couple of weeks. First, I'd like to so Aaron Rodgers is in fact staying with Green Bay this year.
And good for him.
You think?
You know, I think yeah, I do. I do think good. You know, one more year in Green Bay. It's the last ride. You know, sorry to your girlfriend, but he's not going to be back next year. And either is Adams. Both of them are gone.
If Adams makes it through this year, there's been some rumors of him. Well, I guess they have to trade him, right? He's still under contract. So yeah. Well, she's most excited. Randall Cobb is her boy. Like if she could, you know how they always say like you're allowed the hall pass list. Like Randall Cobb is like 1, 2, and 3 on that list. So
Okay.
yeah. So Randall Cobb's back, which she just stuck her head up. She's smiling at me. She's right around the corner here. Yeah. Yeah, she's excited. More excited than Rodgers coming back. It's the fact that Randall Cobb's coming back. So I'm sure his 5 catches for 30 yards will be titillating for the season. But yeah, so yeah, you know, I mean, now when the Browns beat them on Christmas Day, we're planning on being at that game. It won't be you're playing the backups. It'll, you know, when we beat Rodgers, it'll be worth the trip now. No.
No. I don't know if that's really big news. Like, I mean, I was pretty certain he was coming back.
He's been playing with them for so long. It would be weird to see. I mean, then again, I guess you could have said the same thing about Peyton Manning playing for someone other than the Colts.
Tom Brady playing for the Tampa Bay Bucks.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
I mean, hell, I'd even throw Phillip Rivers playing with Indianapolis last year. That was weird.
Phillip Rivers wants to come back. Did you hear that?
Well, Carson's not looking real good right now. So, They got a spot for him.
I've heard rumors that they're going to take that they might bring in Nick Foles. I don't know if that's just
worst thing that they could ever do. Honestly,
right?
Like I still think Wentz may, I don't know, man. He's just got bad luck, right? Whatever. I was really excited because I thought a fresh start was good for him. Philly was a train wreck last year. It definitely got in his head. I think Nick Foles got in his head. I think that he never got over the fact that, I was the MVP candidate and I got this team to this point, and then Nick Foles took him to the Super Bowl on a magical ride, right? Yeah. Like, I mean, it was insane.
When he got injured, and correct me if I'm wrong, but they were like 13-2 or something like that, right?
13-2, and like he went all in with a fucking ACL tear, right? Like he stayed in the game and scored a touchdown, right? Throwing off of one leg. It was, and then he's done. So now he's done. And then, he was hurt the following season with the back injury, and that didn't play out too well for him. And Nick almost did it again, right? He almost did it again in the playoffs. And then, Nick goes anywhere else. He forgets he can play football. Like he just, he only does well in an Eagles uniform, and now, the Colts are thinking about bringing him in, I think is a bad idea, right? Like you just can't bring in that kind of mind fuck.
Right. I mean, you can, and they probably will, because, NFL front offices make like anyone with any common sense looking at it goes, yeah, anyone but that guy. But that's how it works in the NFL. They just bring people in, and I think ESPN on the sideline like tosses money. They're like, hey, we'll cover a portion of Nick Foles' contract just if you bring him in, so we can cover it ad nauseum for the first 3 weeks of the season.
I think Carson Wentz's career is over at that point. I don't know if he can come back from that a second time, third time, whatever.
Right.
I just don't. I don't think he has the mental fortitude. Like he needs to be coddled a little bit, and Philly doesn't do that. Indianapolis does, but not if they bring in Nick Foles.
Yeah. Oof. I mean, at this point, though, like how many years, even if like, I know we're kind of throwing out, how many years does Carson Wentz realistically have left? I mean, because he's out indefinitely right now, right? There's not like a timetable on
5 to 12 weeks.
Okay, so this season's like, unless the Colts are like dead in the water in week 10, he's not coming. He's not going to play this season. So that's another season gone. When did
he could be back as early as October.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I don't know, but if they're doing well, I mean, who is that? I don't even know who their backup is anymore. Like I lost track of all that.
I don't know if they have a good backup right now. That's why they're talking about
Jacoby Brissett. He's not still there, is he?
No.
Yeah, I mean, so I don't know. It feels like he's been in the league a lot longer than he has too, because they got drafted what, 2014, right?
16.
Yeah, because
was his rookie year.
Yeah, because he was number 2 to Jeff Goff's number 1, and man, what happened to that quarterback draft class, huh? That I was somehow on Facebook, I get put these random, like my Facebook will just randomly start following like different teams, and so for some reason the algorithm had me not following was like, maybe you might like this page, and it had me following like the Detroit news for a while, and they're basically like, I feel bad for like Goff because he's not going to be able to do, and like short of going 17-0 and winning the Super Bowl, like they're going to be like, yeah, but Stafford would have done it better. Like like it doesn't matter what he does. Like,
not only that, like I read an article where it was saying like Goff is catching fire in the Detroit system. Like he's playing well. Unfortunately, his receiving core is way behind.
Right.
So he's screwed either way.
Well, I read this. The thing I read was talking about how like there's some practice play and he checked it down and threw the shore, like, 5 yard out and whatever, instead of where Stafford would have gone for the bomb and blah, 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 and all this stuff. And it's like, yeah, well, he's not Stafford. Like, you don't have Stafford anymore. You had Stafford for what, 10, 12 years and did nothing with him. Like, you made it to the playoffs once. Like, calm down, like.
They may, in fact, be the worst team in football this year. I mean, it's a competition. Let's not be scared about saying that. But the Houston Texans, the Jaguars, and who were we just talking about?
The Lions.
The Lions, super bad. And the Eagles might be in there too.
Now, see, the Eagles and the Jaguars, I can look at. Like, I'm not saying they're going to be great, but you can look at them and say, okay, there's at least a plan, maybe, kind of. They're headed in a direction. The Lions, I couldn't tell you what they're trying to do other than amass picks. And yeah, there's no way if the Texans win like 3 games this year, I'm going to be surprised. Although the latest rumors, Mr. Deshaun Watson going to your Philadelphia Eagles. How do you feel about that?
I mean, if he can play, bring him. Like, I think he makes them. It changes the landscape immediately. He's a bona fide superstar. He's a bona fide top 5 quarterback.
Yeah, I would say you guys would instantly have the best quarterback in the division.
Easily top 5 quarterback. And, and if you look at quarterback rating over the history of football, he's number 1, which is fucking weird, right? Like, would you have ever guessed that?
Right.
Like, he has the best quarterback rating of all time.
And he's had Will Fuller, and that's been about it. It's not like he's had like.
Well, he had Hopkins for a minute.
Oh, I wow, man, it's been 2 years, and I completely forgot Hopkins was on that team.
Yeah,
but even without him, he was still doing. He did all right last year. Just that they didn't have the Texans as an organization. Like, they've somehow kind of like I guess because they're like the Texans are one of the few teams in the NFL that are strictly regional. Like, it's real hard to find a Texans fan outside of the city of Houston,
Yeah.
Like, and because of that, they've been a mess of a franchise for, like, I think their peak was going 9-7 and losing to the Patriots maybe in the first round or something like that, the playoffs.
Yeah.
Because they were the team in that I don't remember what the scenario was, but they were playing the Patriots one year in like week 16. And like everyone said, Bill Belichick purposely threw the game because it made like their first round playoff matchup easier or something like that. And I think that's like the summit of Houston Texans football. They've been a mess of and they've had some players too. They had, they had Watt forever. They had Hopkins. They have Deshaun Watson. They had Brian Cushing to a lesser degree. I mean, he's not all world, but he's a solid linebacker.
Yeah.
They've had some people. It's just a mess of a franchise.
Complete mess.
Like, if they got retracted, like if the NFL ever retracted and if the Texans just ceased to exist tomorrow, like, who would even notice,
Nobody. I mean, you could relate to that, right? I mean, is there really a Browns fan outside of Cleveland?
You know what? Before the team got moved to Baltimore, Cleveland Browns had were the 4th most popular team in the NFL. Brah. Andre Rison that year had like the number 2.
We're talking today.
People like Cleveland. ESPN chomps at the bit to put Cleveland on TV. LeBron James put us back on the map, damn it.
That's just because Golic's from there too. And by the way, our show is better than Gola Junior's. I was listening to that knucklehead while I was driving back and forth to Virginia Beach this week.
I feel
he likes to yell and make very loud statements.
Well, I mean, he's his father's son. He's all right. Like, he's not a horrible, talking head, but he definitely got the job because of who his dad is more than
absolutely.
More than like
there at all.
Yeah, like if he would have had to do it like, a normal person where like he had to go to a broadcasting school and then, do some sort of independent podcast like this and then like hope he caught like no, we never know who Mike Golick Jr. was if it wasn't for the fact that his dad was a longtime NFL player and broadcaster on ESPN.
Yeah. So what else happened? Josh Allen got paid. That's
He did.
what happened.
He didn't get Steph Curry paid, but he got paid.
He got paid.
So let's go back to that quarterback class because Josh Allen was the third quarterback taken in that class, right?
Yeah.
Because Baker Mayfield was one.
Was he a third? I think he
Sam
might have been
Darnold
the fourth.
Sam Darnold was two. Lamar Jackson's in that class, but he was after. You know, he was third because then Rosen was fourth.
Rosen
went
fourth.
10.
Okay.
Yeah, because Allen went 7, I think, off the top of my head. That sounds about right to me. So I guess the whole point why I'm going back is if we were to go back to that day and I was to tell you Allen was the one that was going to get the extension first, would you believe me?
No. No, not at all.
I mean, shoot, if we would have went back 2 years ago, I would be surprised that Allen got it and not Jackson yet, to be honest.
I'm surprised that Jackson hasn't gotten it yet. Completely. So, yeah, Josh Allen 7th. Interesting.
Yeah, he went 7th because, I just –
And I don't know why Baltimore hasn't paid Jackson yet, to be honest. Like, he's – you know what you have. Like, it's not going to change. Maybe he gets a little bit more accurate passing the ball, but you know what his game is. He's going to have some stellar games every now and then passing the ball, but he's going to be a 150 guy. He's going to pass for 150 and rush for 150. And it's going to be spectacular while he's doing it.
So my question is this. Do you think maybe why Jackson hasn't gotten an extension yet? Like, okay, saying what you just said, do you think Jackson's $35 million? Do you pay Jackson $35 million a year, or is he like Baker in the sense that I'm not comparing their games, but like Baker Mayfield can be a good quarterback, but you have to surround him with stuff. You can't just be like Baker Mayfield is not Aaron Rodgers. I can't just pay Baker a bunch of money and be like, okay, go win his football games. I need to have a running game, a line, a good receiver. Like you need that with Baker. Is Jackson the same way where it's just he's good. There's no denying his talent, but there is things you need on the team to support it that you need to pay for more so than like a Josh Allen per se.
So I think Cleveland's fucking up right now. I think they should pay Baker now because they're rolling the dice and if Baker lights it up, right? He had 3,600 yards last year and like 26-8. That's without Odell, right? Without Odell. So if he throws up 4,000, 30 TDs, 10 interceptions, they're going to have to pay him the $40 million.
Well, the thing is, he already wants 35, and look, I like Baker. He's my quarterback, but like I just said, he's not Aaron Rodgers. You can't give Baker Mayfield everything. Just be like, okay, go win us football games. He needs things around him that are going to cost money. Like, let's not pretend he needs to have a running game. Let's not pretend that he doesn't have. If you don't want to give me the top offensive line in football right now, top 3. Like they have a great line, and all these things cost money. So like Baker at $25 million a year all day, Baker at $35 to $40 million a year. And that's what the holdup is. It's not that the Browns don't want to extend him. They don't want to extend him at the price that he's asking for. And he very well, I don't know. Like I've never, as a Cleveland Browns fan, we've never gotten to this point where he could very well price himself out. Like, I don't think, and there's nothing wrong with this, right? Like, this isn't a knock on Baker. He's just not Patrick Mahomes. He's not. There's not anything wrong with that. We can win with Baker. We have won with Baker, but he's not Patrick Mahomes. So why do we have to pay him Patrick Mahomes money just because he signs his quarterback contract after Patrick Mahomes did?
So is he Josh Allen? Is he comparable? Josh Allen runs the ball a little bit more.
Yeah, Josh Allen runs the ball. But if you take the running out of it, which I know is hard to do because it's like, let's take out like a fifth of this guy's game and compare them. But like, are their passing stats similar? I feel like Josh Allen throws
11,000 yards for Baker, 90, almost 10,000 for Josh Allen. 75 TDs for Baker, 67 for Josh Allen. 43 interceptions for Baker, 31 for Josh Allen. Most of those 43 came, last year he had a much better year. Rushing yards, 437 for Baker, 1562 for Josh Allen. 25 rushing TDs for Josh Allen. 4 for Baker.
Yeah.
So maybe not 40-45, but like he's 35-40. He's 35-40.
You know what? Yeah, I mean, obviously, since I'm a Browns fan, I get to see all the really weird comparisons. But apparently, through like, I forget the first 3 seasons or something like I forget what it is, but like their first 3 full seasons, because last year was only Baker's like 3rd full season. He like compares very favorably to Dan Marino, actually, like on like just like a completion percentage, touchdown to interception ratio. He compares very favorably to Dan Marino, which is weird because you watch Baker play, and again, you see flashes, right? But never once am I like, yeah, let's just like turn it over to Baker and let him like. I'm sitting there watching him in the Kansas City game going, why are we not running the ball more? Like that's every time I watch a Browns game, that's my thought. Like the threat of Nick Chubb, I think helps him as much as anything else.
I would agree.
See, I can be realistic about the Browns.
I mean, it's going to be an interesting year, right? Like, I mean, I'm going to talk shit all year long, and I'm going to say that they're going to fall flat on their face, and they're going to be the biggest disappointment in the NFL. Biggest underachievement in the NFL. Let's just say that. But
what's
the reality is,
what's underachieving for you? What's underachieving for you? Like, what if the Browns finish 12-5? Is that underachieving?
No.
If the Browns finish 10-7,
it's getting into it. It's getting in the zone, right? 9-8, missing the playoffs.
Yeah,
finishing 3rd in the division.
Well, that's not gonna happen. I'm not gonna guarantee they'll edge Baltimore, but I don't think the Steelers and the Bengals aren't there yet, and the Steelers I think have lost too much. They had too shaky of an offseason. Like I just don't like. Can you look at the Steelers and say they're any better than they were last year? No, right? Like as a whole, I'd say they took a step back from where they were last year. And where they were last year after they won their first 11 games wasn't great.
Here's what I can say about the Steelers. They still have a pretty good defense. Their offensive line is questionable. They have a better running back, which should translate to a better running game. And they don't have a backup quarterback, so they better pray that Ben stays healthy.
Yeah.
But I mean, they just don't have one, right? Like, all 3 of the guys that played Monday night, they need to go all in on somebody and start fucking coaching him up. Like,
right.
Like Mason Rudolph is horrible. Dwayne Haskins looked horrible, and I don't even know who else was in the game.
It still cracks me up that Dwayne Haskins is their number 3. But
I'd probably make him my number 2. But we know what Mason Rudolph is. Let him go. Just call it a day, and make Haskins 2 and coach him up. So they're an anomaly, right? Like I don't think by any stretch of the imagination they're going to be sub 500. I just don't.
Well, they can't. They can't be.
Well.
See,
you know what I mean.
If there weren't 17 games, they have 8-8 written all over them to me.
Yeah.
Like they'll win a game or 2, they shouldn't. They'll lose a game or 2, they shouldn't. And then like they're going to be favored in a couple. Like they're not Detroit bad, right? They're not the Lions bad. They're not I think they're still head and shoulders above the Bengals, right? But like, so but they're an 8-8 team that'll end up with a winning record because we have 17 games. That's what they are.
17 is still weird.
It is. Like 10-7 just doesn't sound right because it doesn't sound as impressive as 10-6. It just doesn't. Even though I'd assume if you go 10 wins in the NFL, it still should. But yeah, you throw that 7 after it just sounds like
maybe the extra game is 10's no longer the barometer. Maybe it's now 11. Maybe 10 wins isn't like we should be in the playoffs. Maybe now it's 11.
See, I think it's going to do the opposite. You're going to see a lot more 10-win games or 10-win teams now. There's going to be bigger. There's going to be like a couple great teams that get to 12, 13, 14 wins. And, you have your really bad teams that get to like 4 to 5 wins, but you're going to have a lot more teams in that 9, 10, 11 win range. Like that's where they're all going to be. Like 9, 10 wins, you're going to see a lot of those teams this year. Is if I had to guess. That's what you're going to end up seeing. You're going to see a lot of 9-8, a lot of 10-7.
So who gets paid next? So we can wrap up that portion.
I mean, it's got to be Lamar Jackson, right? I mean, he's an MVP. He won his first playoff game last year. He seems to be improving. Their whole offensive game plan is built around his skill set. So it's not like you can just lose him and then just plug in, pro style quarterback X and it work,
right.
So it's got to be Jackson. Like if they don't extend Jackson, they have to start over, right? Like I'm not wrong in that thought process, am I? Like unless they have like another running quarterback that they have in the wings that we just don't know about, but RG3 just took a deal with ESPN, so I don't know who else they could possibly just plug in there. So it's got to be Jackson. He has to be. Baker, I think it's going to depend on this year. If Baker can get him the AFC Championship game and they lose and have a good game, even if they lose it, but he still has a good game, like 3 touchdowns to an interception and 200, 300, 200, high 200, like 280 to 300 plus yards.
Yeah.
He'll get an extension then. But I think we won't see a Baker extension until the end of this year, depending on how he does. So therefore, it's got to be Jackson. He's got the credentials. He's got a playoff victory under his belt. Their whole offensive identity is they're drafting to his offensive strengths now. So it's got to be him. If it's not him, I don't know what they're doing.
Do they wait a year? They brought in some weapons for him. Baltimore's got a ton of receivers now.
I mean, do you think this is make or break for him? I that seems weird to me, doesn't it? Like, well, let me put it this way: not who's going to get the next extension, but who would you be most shocked if we found out they were allowed to walk at the end of next year? It'd have to be Jackson, right? Like, if at the end of this year, unless something completely catastrophic happens, if Jackson just plays like 90% of what he's been doing the last couple of years, you'd be shocked if he was the one that walked, right? Like, I feel like between him and Baker, even me, the Browns fan, would be more. I'd be more likely to say Baker's going to walk than Lamar Jackson, right?
I mean, that's a really good question. I just don't know. Like, they have to sign Lamar, right? Because of what his skill set and what, like I said at the beginning, you know what you have, right? And it's unique. And it was an MVP he was an MVP. He was on the cover of ESPN, NFL football, right? Like he was on the cover of Madden. So, it would be more shocking if they let him walk. But I'd still be shocked if they let Baker walk.
I don't know their schedule, but they might, because we obviously, so the Browns open up at KC this year. So do the Ravens must play KC at some point, right?
Let's see.
Because I'd say if the Ravens win that game, Lamar's definitely getting an extension, because that's like the one bugaboo is they haven't been able to beat he hasn't been able to beat Mahomes. It would be like the one knock against him.
They play the Chiefs week 2 at home.
Yeah. So if they win that game, there's no way Lamar walks. If they lose that game, but Lamar plays well, there's no way he walks. Now, if Lamar fumbles and, has a horrible game, and then I still can't see them letting it. They built their whole team around, like their whole offense is built around his skill set. They'd be setting themselves back if they let him go.
Yeah. The Ravens' end of season schedule is brutal.
Yeah, I think they play the Browns twice at the end of the year, don't they?
Cleveland, Steelers, Browns, Packers, Bengals, Rams, Steelers.
Yikes.
Yikes.
Like the Bengals, and that's a division opponent, and that's probably like the one like.
And it's at Cincinnati.
Oof. Man. Like that's the thing. The way the Browns schedule is like that. We have a tough schedule this year, but the way we don't like, there's no stretch where we play more than 2 games away from home in a row. Like there's a couple of those stretches, but like I want to say the toughest one I saw is I think we play like at Baltimore and then at New England or something like it's like or at Pittsburgh and at New England, something like that. I don't have the schedule in front of me, but like that was like the toughest stretch. But after that, like we have a few like 3 straight home games and stuff like that. Like there's not a lot of things where we're playing a lot of away games back to back, which I like.
Ravens, Raiders, Packers, Steelers, Bengals. That's how you wrap up your season.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's not like we did with Baltimore, but it's still not nice.
Oh no, it's not nice. But like I'm not worried about the Bengals because they're not. The world. Something will be really weird going on if the Bengals are like in any kind of contention. So not looking at their schedule. I'm not really worried about Pittsburgh, but between us and Baltimore, we have just the way the home and away games are, we have the far easier schedule compared to Baltimore. I think Baltimore's got like the second toughest schedule this year. So I think the Steelers have the first, actually. I think the Steelers and Ravens are 1-2, or they're both up there. Because I think Browns have like the top, like the number 10 or 11, but their schedule doesn't look. The teams they play are hard, but like I said, the way the away games and home games fall makes it seem easier than like just looking at the teams. I think, in all honesty, as much as I joke about it, I think that game at Lambeau will be a good barometer for how the Browns season's going, regardless of what their record is at that point.
Yeah, it's Steelers, Ravens, Bears, Packers, Vikings, Lions, Bengals, Raiders, Browns. So Browns have the 9th hardest schedule right now.
Yeah. Based on last year's record. So do you want to talk about the Hall of Fame game? Anything stand out to you?
No, I don't want to talk about the Hall of Fame game. Terrible.
The one statistic I would like to throw out about that game, I actually saw it today right before I logged in. The NHL Stanley Cup Finals averaged 2.5 million viewers per game. The World Series, I think, averaged like 7.3, or no, they averaged like 6.9 million per game. The NBA Finals average 8.2 million per game. The Hall of Fame game, 7.3 million people tuned in for it. So if there's any question what the pinnacle sport is in, and that's during the Olympics, like there's stuff going on. So if there's
playoff baseball being played right now. I mean, it's not the playoffs, but like it's that kind of atmosphere. Yeah. It's the home stretch. The NBA Finals just wrapped up. You got the Olympics planned. There's all kinds of stuff happening in the sports world.
And it wasn't even on a weekend. Was it Monday or was it Tuesday?
No, it was on a Thursday.
It was Thursday night. Like Thursday night, 7.3 million people. Like
when you know that it's just third and fourth stringers trying to fill roster spots.
Yeah. When you know it's like you're gonna see Which, by the way, Ezekiel Elliott, like what look is he going for?
Good for Zeke, man. Do you, bro?
You do you, Zeke. You
He
think he's gonna
looks in shape, which could be scary.
Well, we'll see. With Zeke, it's never been about being in shape or not being in shape. It's been attitude. Like he just spends half the season not seeming to care.
He was way out of shape last year. He had a
Yeah.
you know, he literally looked like an Ewok come to life.
I mean, the haircut doesn't help that at all. But
You know, the Eagles have the easiest schedule. I'll just throw that out there.
well, you know, a team in the NFC East, just by virtue of playing the NFC East, would have the easiest schedule.
It's kind of funny you say that, right? Because Washington football team is 15. The Giants are 25. The Cowboys are 31, and the Eagles are 32.
I mean, in the
I'm
group,
going to go out on a limb and say that it legitimately, the East is going to turn around a little bit. Like 3 out of the 4 teams in the East are going to make significant improvements. The Eagles are going to be a dumpster fire unless something crazy happens. You know, they're going to be. I think their defense is better than. I think their defense is finally better than we thought it would be. I just think their offensive line is going to break down. I just do. I mean,
the Eagles are in a way kind of in the same boat as the Steelers, where like their Super Bowl window is closed. Like that chapter is kind of over right now, and they just kind of need to get younger, blow it up, get what they can for some of these veteran players, and just like not that I like want to say like just suck for a couple of years, but they kind of just got to suck for a couple of years, get some picks back in, get some youth, and
I think it needs to be a couple of years, right? Like. Yeah. I think that they have a young running back. They have a young wide receiver. They have a young tight end, right? They have a couple young dudes on the line, right? I want Jalen Hurts to be good enough that they don't go out and get Deshaun Watson and use their stockpile of draft picks to draft offensive line. That's
now if they do get Deshaun Watson, what I just said goes completely out the window, and I expect them to be. I'll still give them a year. But next year, I expect them to be, if not making the playoffs, at least like winning the East. Like,
Well, I mean, it's such an interesting situation with Deshaun Watson because there's no news, right? Like, boom, 22 women make allegations, and then crickets. Nothing. There's nothing from anyone on either side to tell us what the fuck is going on.
I will say, I think there's something going on because the Texans, since this all like Deshaun, like through it all, have been like, nope, not trading him, don't care, not trading him, not trading him, not trading him. Then suddenly they're like, we'll listen, so like something had to have, or unless maybe it's just he's holding out and they're like, all right, I guess he's serious. So,
well, they want the bank, and I think they realized like they're not going to get it, so. They better jump on board the train of trading him before like his value is completely gone.
Right.
Like right now, what does he bring?
Right now, Deshaun Watson, legal with knowing all the legal stuff we know, he's still going to pull like a quarterback in return plus like a first and a couple seconds at minimum, if not two firsts and a second or something like that. Like so they're not going to get what they were wanting before, where it's like 2 starters and 3 first-round picks and another. Yeah, they're not going to get all that, but they're going to get like a starter, a quarterback in return, and like a couple first-round picks. Still, I think they can get that.
So the Eagles have Jalen Hurts, 2 first-round draft picks, and 1 conditional second-round draft pick because it used to be 3, but Carson had hurt his fucking foot. But now that goes, it's probably going to want to be in a conditional second-round pick. I mean, I don't know if I want to give that up.
Well, the thing is, I will say, and just because I've seen it from the Browns, I mean, with a couple second-round picks and a couple right free agent signings, you can turn your offensive line around in one offseason.
Right.
So if you give that up and you get Watson, you have all the offensive pieces around him he should need, because Dallas Goedert is sneaky good.
Yeah.
Like, I think he, especially with Deshaun Watson, like, just pretend he is Deshaun Watson as quarterback for a second. I think that vaults him into the top. I mean, who would you say? I'd say obviously Kelsey's still better. Waller's better. Who's the dude on the out? Kittle's is better. But then it's like him and the dude in Atlanta for 4 or 5. I mean, he's up there.
Yeah.
You got an offensive. You got, like you said, you got a receiver. You got a running back. They improved that line. I mean, we play for now. We don't. As much as GMs like to talk about the future. No, if you have the chance to go and be a serious playoff contender next year, you do it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, if they could pull it off, and then of course the litigation and whatever else works itself out to where Deshaun's not missing a lot of time, or maybe maybe it makes sense for the Eagles knowing that, hey, okay, we throw away this year and then we have him next year. I mean, maybe that's, not much is expected of us this year anyway.
Maybe that's why they brought in Flacco.
Right.
Like, why else bring in Flacco when it's the complete opposite game plan strategy of Jalen Hurts?
Right.
Unless you're trying to teach Jalen accuracy. Like I can't imagine any other reason.
Well, because Flacco's not even one of those like, yeah, I'm happy to teach kind of guys. He's like, I still want to. I'm still the
start.
Man. Yeah, he's not.
About? I want a Super Bowl.
I'm Delaware's finest. Yeah,
Blue Heads.
Man, who would have known that North Dakota State would be a QB factory?
Who, from what I heard, Trey Lance is lighting it up.
Yeah. It's always these small schools that somehow, because it was like Eastern Illinois for a little bit because they had Romo and they had someone else that came through their system and did all right. And now it's like North Dakota State. Like, it's just so random. So random. So I know it's a little bit outside the NFL, but I kind of want to touch on it. What do you think about the SEC essentially becoming the NFL junior?
Sickening, right? I think the Big Ten's going to get a couple new teams though coming up soon too. So, like, let's not count them out, right? But I mean, so what happens to the Power Five, right? Like, that's always been the barometer to gauge your playoffs, your strength of schedule, all of that. So now, like, the Big 12 is pretty much going to be defunct. I don't know how they rebound from that. I see more teams leaving. Right. SEC is stacked. Right. I mean, I think you have to extend. Well, one, I think I don't give a fuck what Dabo Swinney says. I think you need to extend the playoffs. I think you need to make it 16 teams, and it can be done. Right. It can. So, like, let's not even pretend Dabo. Dabo says some dumb shit sometimes.
Yeah.
But, it's not even fair how good that conference already is. And now it's better.
I still think the SEC is very top heavy. Because, like, let's be honest, Texas at this point, the UT football program, it's more of like a historic name thing. That it's like they're like Michigan. Like, we think of it, it's like, yeah, they were good 20 years ago, but when's the last time Texas cracked the top 10?
Dude, didn't Vince Young play like a decade ago?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. 10 years ago. But my point is, like, they're not as relevant as they were. It was more than that, wasn't it? Like, that was like in the early 2000s. That was like 15 years ago.
Was it? Yeah,
that was like 2000. I want to say 2005. 2006, somewhere in there. That was Reggie Bush. I mean, that was all those guys have had their NFL careers, and they're over already.
Yeah, but they only played for a short period of time. Right?
I'm pretty sure, like, I'm 90% sure
yeah,
that was
you're right.
Yeah.
Damn.
So, I mean, that's that. I mean, I think it's fairly easy to say that was the last time Texas football was relevant, right? So it's been 15 years for them. You know, Oklahoma's been relevant recently, but like, I mean, Arkansas, Vanderbilt, like that's what I don't understand. Like, how are these teams staying? And like, I feel like if you're gonna go all the way, like get rid of them and get someone like, you know, pull Ohio State. Like, why? It just because we're at this point, like, okay. So my thing is, why if you are, how much money can this thing really generate? Because that's what it's really all about. Like Texas and Oklahoma don't want to come play Florida every year, but it's about the money. But at some point, when do you go from like what made college football was the rivalries, the pageantry, like that's what differentiated them from the NFL. We're slowly getting to a point where if you have a super conference like the SEC, like where they have, let's just say they get to like 20, 25 teams, whatever. Like at what point do they go from being college football to just a watered down NFL product?
Well, not only that, like they have their own playoffs. They named their own champion.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like you say top heavy, but there's a lot of fucking teams on the top. You got Alabama, Georgia, Auburn, Texas A&M. Tennessee's not bad. Florida, LSU, South Carolina, not a bad team. Ole Miss, not a bad team. Mississippi State, they're not bad. Right? Now you bring in Texas and Oklahoma.
They're not relevant though. I mean, how many people like, you know, like when the Big Ten worries about the SEC, how many of them are worried about Mississippi State? Like Northwestern, maybe?
Well, now you got to worry about Oklahoma and Texas.
Right. But my point is, like, at what point, like, is college football just going to become a watered down NFL? Because you still have people like, you know, because like Alabama, like, who's going to watch Alabama roll over Vanderbilt? You know what I'm saying? Like, who cares? No one cares about that game. So, like, part of it was the pageantry and the rivalries and that kind of thing, and they're getting away from that. And that's what differentiated them from the NFL. Because, like, you watch Ohio State, Michigan, for example, and you understand that there are players playing that game that's the pinnacle for them. They're not, that's it. They're not going to be higher than that.
Right.
But now when you start getting to these super conferences, well, why do I care about Alabama versus Vandy or Auburn versus Tennessee? Like, I don't. We don't care.
Right.
And you're watering down your product at that point. Keeping them, the strength of the NCAA was keeping everything separate. Because like what drives the debate every year? Oh, well, what happens if Ohio State makes it? And can Ohio State play Alabama? I guess we got to watch the playoffs to figure that out. Well, if they end up in the same conference and they play each other twice a year, okay, those games will be huge. But then what about the rest of the year? Like if Alabama and Ohio State are playing every year, or Oklahoma's playing Alabama every year, are we then going to turn around and care when Oklahoma's blowing out Ole Miss? Like, do we care? No, we're not even going to watch. So I just think this whole realignment thing, and I know this is making me sound like I'm way older than I am, but like, I just, not that they need to go back to the Big Ten being like 10 teams or something like that, but because Rutgers and Maryland fit in the Big Ten as far as I'm concerned. But like, we're talking about like Oklahoma State and West Virginia going to the Big Ten. What? Like, why? It doesn't make sense to me.
Because they got to keep up. Now, legitimately speaking, there's only 14 teams in the SEC currently. So now they bumped it to 16. Right? The Big Ten has 12. Do they have 12?
Yeah, because they were 11. No, they're 14. Because they
have 14 as well.
Yeah, they were the Big Ten, but then they added Penn State, so they were at 11. Then they added Nebraska, Rutgers, and Maryland.
Yeah, so they have 14.
I mean, what teams even make sense for the Big Ten, though? I mean, I'd pressure Notre Dame, and I mean, who else do you take? What's another team?
See, the thing with the Big Ten is, it's still top heavy, but any given year somebody gets sneaky good for a couple seasons, right? Wisconsin, Northwestern for some fucking reason, right?
Right.
Iowa. That's it. Indiana. I throw them. They've had a couple.
Michigan State does that every now and again. They rise up and have a good year.
Well, and I think Michigan State's better than Michigan right now.
Yeah. Oh yeah, hands down. But like the thing about the Big Ten is they try to maintain that academic standard kind of feel to them as well. Like the Big Ten likes to be kind of scholarly. That's why I don't understand who else they get. Like Notre Dame. And then who else? Who's the 16th team? Because I've heard Kansas, but Kansas is, I guess Kansas is actually a surprisingly good academic school. Like more, I say I get that, but it's like more so than you'd think like Kansas would be. But they don't bring a football presence. Like
let's. I think you make a great point right there, and that's exactly what I was thinking. It's not just about football. It's not just about football. Like you're bringing basketball programs too.
Yeah, but football drives it. I mean, the SEC didn't go after Texas and Oklahoma for their basketball.
No, they went for football, right? Yeah. But like you bring Kansas to the Big Ten, that makes basketball in the Big Ten a big difference, right? It's a huge difference in basketball. Maryland's always pretty decent. Michigan is great in basketball.
Ohio State has its ups and downs.
Illinois sometimes up and down. Wisconsin, sometimes they're good. Penn State's been trying for decades to make a legitimate basketball program. Now you bring Kansas in the mix and Notre Dame.
I mean, they're easily, arguably, that would easily make them on par with the ACC in basketball, as far as I'm concerned.
So I mean, college is big business. College sports is big business, man. And they got to figure out a way to supplement all these kids making money.
Well, here's my one here's my one pipe dream, and hear me out on it because I think ultimately it makes sense. And what it is, you sitting down, you ready? Ohio University, my fighting Bobcats of Ohio University to the SEC. Why? Why do you ask? Why would the SEC be interested in Ohio University? To cannibalize recruiting for Ohio State. Tell me that doesn't make sense. Like, they don't even need Ohio University to be great. But if Ohio University can just be like, I don't know, Tennessee quality, they're going to recruit enough to where Ohio State won't be able to keep up with Alabama.
Are you drinking fluids while you're sitting out in the sun down there?
Yeah, I got my drink.
Because you need some more fluids.
Cannibalize
right?
Ohio
Like, I
State.
think you're a little dehydrated, and I think it's affecting your brain.
Cannibalize Ohio State recruiting. Ohio to the SEC. Make it happen, Nick Saban.
Yeah. Replenish it with the old 7-Eleven body armor.
Yeah.
Non-sponsored, but we'd like it if they did.
Yeah, 7-Eleven. Hey, pretty good. And you can get them, I think they're $2 for $3 right now.
Yeah.
Zero. I go with the zero sugar variety. Not bad. Not bad at all. Ohio to the SEC. Say
Ohio.
it with me.
No, I'm not saying that at all.
That, or I'd like to see them bring the Big East back and get like Pitt and West Virginia, have the backyard brawl, Ohio, Miami of Ohio, and like Syracuse, like a couple ACC teams get in there. That could be well too. Like the bottom half of the ACC, Pitt and West Virginia, Ohio, and some of the MAC schools would be a good division in my opinion. But that's neither here nor there.
I think you should. Full members of the Old Dominion is an associate member of the Big East. Big East is wow. I mean, they're a basketball. That's a basketball.
Yeah, they dropped.
Conference.
Yeah, they dropped all the football stuff. That was like in the first round of realignment. The Big East said, no, we don't want all you big football schools. But man, like some of that stuff was real. Like the Big East was a really good regional conference. Like they had the backyard brawl with Pitt and West Virginia. Syracuse was part of the Big East.
What do you do with all these teams in the Big East currently, though? If they were to do that, like I would love to see the Big East come back, right? And like put Penn State in there. Penn State should be a Big East team. Go from like, I don't know, but what do you do with all these schools?
Well,
Butler,
I mean,
Connecticut, Crichton.
Okay, so Connecticut could stay because Connecticut's got a football team. Yeah, I mean, I guess you pilfer some of these teams, and then you couldn't call it the Big East. It would have to be like something different, but call it the Northeast. I don't know, the North. You could find something to call it that, because that's what it was. Like the original Big East schools were all those religious-based schools that played basketball. Your Creightons, your St. John's, like that was what stayed. So I mean, fine, they can keep the name Big East. You call it something else, but
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, like if you're someone that doesn't particularly care about the SEC, and like, do you care about the Big Ten outside of the fact that Penn State's in it? Like, if Penn State was somewhere else, would you follow the Big Ten a whole lot?
No, not at all.
So, I mean, if I was to propose a 10-team league that had like Penn State, West Virginia, Syracuse, Pitt, Ohio, which in my opinion is still a Power 5 name, even though we're not a Power 5 school. If Ohio came, Ohio State would probably have to come. Because I mean, Penn State has some Penn State, Pitt, that would be a natural rivalry. Like all those teams. So I just spouted out 7 teams without really thinking about it. And there's some rivalries in there. And it's all geographically close. I mean, maybe you go after Army, get Army in there. So now we're at 8 teams, and then maybe you get North and South Dakota State, bring them up to Division I. I just made a conference. Make me commissioner.
Do it.
I mean, the farthest travel will be what? Like Syracuse to North Dakota State, which for a big time conference isn't that far.
You could probably pillage some ACC schools, a couple more as well,
or like some of the Pac-12 or like maybe Colorado State, something like that. Hell, the Big 12's falling apart. Let's bring in Oklahoma State. They need a place. Although they're kind of out there compared to the rest of the league I just put together. But hey.
So you got Virginia Tech, Pittsburgh, Syracuse, Notre Dame for football, obviously. Boston College. You put all of those schools in the Big East.
Okay, so we're gonna end it here because we're gonna start to run long. But I just kind of want to. So let's just say we put together a conference. So we got Penn State, Pitt, West Virginia, Syracuse, Boston College. That's 5. Ohio, Miami of Ohio. That's 7. I want to say Toledo, but I don't want another Ohio team. I'm running through the MAC to see who we would take. We'll just take those 2 from the MAC. I like the idea of North and South Dakota State. They're both really good Division II.
They're too far away.
So we'll drop them.
Notre Dame.
I just don't think realistically Notre Dame would go. Like they would go to the Big Ten before they would go to this random conference we're building.
Bring them anyway. It's a pipe dream.
Okay, so we're at 8 teams. So we need 2 more to get to a conference championship game. So Connecticut. That's 9.
Virginia Tech.
I'd rather have Virginia, but Virginia Tech's fine. So there we go. Boom. 10 teams. Make it happen. You know what? We're giving up our shares in the San Diego Chargers to be co-commissioners of whatever conference we just built.
Yep.
And there's some great rivalries. It's close. If nothing else, we would have a stronghold on Northeast United States.
Absolutely. Crush it.
We would crush it. I think we could give the Big Ten a run for their money.
I believe so.
I like it.
I do too. And on that note, I'm going to say one last thing.
Did we agree on something?
We did.
Wow.
We did.
Mark it down.
The Sixers need to go all in and trade Ben Simmons for Damian Lillard and whatever else they need to give fucking Portland. They just need to fucking do it. Just do it. Just go all in and do it. take all your draft picks for the next 3 years and Ben Simmons and ship them to Portland for Damian Lillard. That's what they need to do. And like I'm a pseudo Sixer fan because I'm from Philly. I'm a Laker fan, right? Pretty excited about Russell Westbrook. Let me just say that.
How do you feel about Carmelo and Russell and Westbrook?
So when you look at NBA projections for next year, right? Everybody stays healthy. It's an even playing field. Brooklyn on paper is a monster, right? Monster. You know, especially the KD, the way he looked at the Olympics was exciting, right? So you put a healthy Kyrie and a healthy Harden, Blake Griffin on that squad, they look almost unbeatable. They should run through the East without a problem. Run through it. The Lakers on paper should come out of the West, right? The difference between the two teams is AD is a legitimate defender. LeBron, when he wants to, is a legitimate defender. Russell Westbrook, when he wants to, is a legitimate defender. All three can score at will, right? So I still give the nod to Brooklyn a little bit, but it's pretty fucking close now.
The only thing about the Lakers is who's got the outside shot. Melo coming off the bench, like who's your outside shooter? That's really the only
Melo.
But he's not a start. You're not starting Melo, are you?
You don't need to. You only bring him in when you need the outside shot. You know, you just bring him in when you need the shot.
Who else is on that team still? Because they traded Kuzma, right? He's gone.
Traded Kuzma. Traded a couple other dudes. I don't even know who else is on the squad now, to be honest.
See, it's funny that you said that because I don't know who they would give, but Ben Simmons to Cleveland makes sense because we would just be happy to have a superstar. We wouldn't. There'd be no pressure for Ben Simmons in Cleveland. Cleveland's a good. The Cavs are a great team for a superstar that needs to refine himself because we're just happy that you're there and we'll buy your jersey and we will boo anyone that says anything bad about you. By the way, how do you like the pool in the background? You like that? Is that
Love
good?
It. Love
background this year?
They still have Dennis Schroeder. They still have Horton Tucker, Marc Gasol. They re-signed Dwight Howard. Costas, did they sign Giannis's brother? They did.
That's kind of funny.
That is. Markieff Morris, Wesley Matthews, Malik Monk. So, I mean, they have like a big 3+1 and a lot of really decent role players. Dwight Howard coming off the bench is not a bad thing.
No.
Carmelo Anthony, the second rotation with Carmelo and Dwight being the anchor.
The second rotation is turning into like the 2012 All-Star team.
Right? I mean, it's not a bad place to be. So, I mean, I don't want to discount Phoenix because Phoenix was pretty fucking good this year. Denver played pretty fucking good. You know, I just think if the Lakers can stay healthy, it's a different ballgame.
Yeah. But you could say that about any of the teams. I mean, if as much as I'm happy for, Liesel because Milwaukee won, if Brooklyn stays healthy, does Milwaukee win again? I don't know. Although it'll be interesting to see how the rule change where you can't lean into the defender to draw a foul. It'll be interesting to see how they call that, and it'll be interesting to see how Harden plays when his scoring average drops like 12 points a game. But
yeah, and he doesn't play defense.
Yeah, neither does Kyrie. That being said, I think this is a good spot to wrap it up. We got a lot of good stuff in today.
It is.
I missed you, big guy. You've been gone.
I went to Michigan too.
You got to come to Orlando. Well, I'm coming up there. That's 2 weeks and counting.
I know.
And yeah, a little less than 2 weeks from now, you'll be picking me up from the airport. So
I know. So time-wise, you might be hanging outside on the departures patio for a minute or two.
That's fine. I do this thing whenever I travel to a new city. I go and I get a Starbucks mug of, like the Been Here
in the hotel. I mean, in the airport.
Yeah, they'll have a Starbucks in the airport.
Okay.
So I'll go find the Starbucks. I'll get the Been Here mug. It'll take a minute.
Okay. Yeah, because I have a thing at work, and then I don't know what time that ends, but I can't miss it. I have to be there. It's a I'll be kissing babies type of thing, right? So
right.
It's at one of my sites, and I have to be there. So I have to get into a dunk tank, actually.
Oh.
Yeah.
Man, maybe I should change my flight.
Fly into State College.
I'm game for that. I'll wear my Saquon Barkley Penn State jersey while I do it.
Okay. You'll be a welcome sight.
Aw. Well, we'll wrap it up there. Good seeing you back, big guy.
All right.
Feel a little bit. Felt a little.
Looking forward to next week. We should have a lot more to talk about.
Yeah, get some preseason NFL. I'm just hoping for no big injuries. That's kind of my thing in the preseason now, just because I don't want fantasy football to get ruined because, God forbid, like Saquon Barkley goes down in the preseason and, hate it.
Yeah,
all right,
I don't like picking fourth, by the way.
You don't?
No.
I'm in another league. I got added to another league, and I'm picking eighth. And I'm not a big fan of that.
I think I'd rather pick eighth.
The only thing I like about eighth is you can definitely get Kelsey, and no one looks at you side-eyed for doing it at eight. That's about the only thing I like about eight.
I did Kelsey at 4, and it fucks up the whole draft. You're screwed. It's terrible.
I still might take him at 1. We'll see.
At 1, you could do it because you have the quick turnaround where you can bang, bang, right?
Get your 2 running backs. Yeah.
You could do that, right? Like at 4, I'm praying that, somebody still stays there, right?
Right.
And they're not. It's just, it hasn't worked out in any mock draft that I've done.
Right. The only thing I don't like about mock drafting is I feel like after a while, you just kind of get used to what happens because especially if you mock draft against the computer a lot, the computer tends to take the same players in the same spot, and it doesn't account for human emotion. Like I remember one year in our draft, someone took Carson Wentz in the second round, and stuff like that will never ever happen in a mock draft. You know what I'm saying?
No.
So that's what I always do. Like when I always keep missing a player who I want. I'm like, well, maybe someone will reach for someone that they shouldn't, and yeah. But anyway.
All right, man. Let's wrap it up. I think that's the third time maybe fourth that we've said it.
Yeah.
I'm working on a new little 20-second ditty for our intro and outro. Like original.
Which song's doesn't it like for the is it on the intro?
It didn't hit it in episode 24, so I don't know. It hit it in 23, it didn't hit it in 24, so I'm confused.
Well, because the songs I'm downloading are using, they say they're free use. That I'm specifically looking up that, so I don't know why we keep having these problems.
I don't know.
Because there's a paid version of one of the songs, but all it does, the only difference is, and you have to kind of listen to it. In the song I use, it the recorder says his name. There's this part where he says his name, and if you get the free version, it doesn't have that. But if the paid version doesn't have that, the free version does. But so I don't know. Supposedly the stuff I use is supposed to be fine. So maybe it's just YouTube's algorithm going nuts.
Yeah, which is a possibility. So.
Yeah. All right, man.
All right, man. Enjoy your Sunday.
Yep, you too. Catch you later, brother.
Bye.
Bye.
Well, everybody, that wraps up our show for this week. Thanks for listening.